This is Jonathan Agger, 5th Pro Boxing Fans, joined by former super middleweight world champion George Groves, now trainer, obviously, of Lucas Roehrig. George, another step up for Lucas this weekend?
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see whether it's a step up or not, but slightly different opponent in terms of, like, he's a tall, rangy fighter. He's more of a boxer than a slugger, and for Lucas, I've tried to expose him to all different sorts of opponents in his really short pro career. But this guy, as I say, the last one was physically strong, your cruiserweight who'd boxed up at heavyweight, a little bit wild and reckless. So you've got to, you can box these guys, but you've got to stay switched on. Whereas this fella, Friday night, I think he's going to come out and try and box, and it's up to Lucas to maybe put it on him, let him feel the power, and then set it up with some really smart boxing and go for a clinical knockout win, which I think he's very much capable of Friday night.
Were you there when he sparred Eddie Hall in this camp?
Yeah, of course I was. You can't not be there when you're one prospect sparring Eddie Hall. So we obviously Lucas, we got a great relationship with the Sauerland brothers, Nissa, and Sam and the guys at Misfit Pros. I think it's the same team, I assume, that are looking after the Misfits. And I was like, Eddie Hall, we must be looking for some Tommy-esque sparring. I was like, what about Lucas? So we got set up, and I spoke with G, who takes care of Eddie, and he said, you're welcome to come up to Stoke. And we jumped in the car, we went up to Stoke, stayed in a lovely little hotel there. They've got one, it's really good. And then we showed up at the gym to spar with Eddie Hall the next day, and the gym ticked every box. I'm sure G won't mind. Very much spit and sawdust, a tough man's gym. Met Eddie for the first time. Obviously, you feel like you know someone when you've seen him so many times online, but yeah, met Eddie, lovely fella. They're all lovely people, great hospitality, but then you go upstairs and just seeing Eddie warm up is quite daunting, and I ain't even got to get in the ring with him. Very flexible for a guy that big, but yeah, there's lots of masculine noises coming. And then he said, I'm just going to nip the floor. The gym's over 2 floors, so I'm just going to nip upstairs and just finish off my warm-up. And I don't know, hopefully there was no one else up there with him, because it sounded like if there was, their head was getting ripped from their body. I'm assuming he's throwing stuff into walls, he's jumping up and down, he's smashing stuff off the floor. The most harrowing sounds you could ever imagine came from Eddie Hall on the top floor of his gym in Stoke. Then he came down, finished off his wraps, put a bit of Vass on, and I just said to Lucas, good luck, son. You know what you're doing, yeah? They jumped in the ring together, tiny little ring, touch gloves, and away they went. And Lucas, let's be honest, at this point, high-level amateur boxer, very good, exciting pro, been in there with the best pros in the world. Then came into his comfort zone, and it was Eddie, obviously, the inexperienced boxer who had to make the best of it. But some great rounds for both guys, and I think Eddie came away saying, this guy's the real deal, and Lucas came away with his shoulders and his legs and everything intact. So it was a good day.
Do you think Tommy will engage with Eddie based on what you saw?
I said to Eddie, I don't really, he's never moved around with Tommy. I've seen a bit of Tommy, but from what I gather, from my knowledge in boxing, Tommy Fury's going to be nothing like Lucas Roehrig. Lucas is, as I say, he's a monster. He's ferocious in there, and so this, if you get a feel for what to expect with Lucas, then this ain't going to be what Tommy's. I reckon it's going to be a lovely big ring. I think Eddie's going to charge at him, and Tommy's going to try and get on his bike a little bit, and it's whether Eddie can cut the ring off, make it count when it needs to matter, and use his physicality. But we have to wait and see. We're going to the fight. We are Team Hall, but we're looking forward to it. And if in the wildest circumstances that Eddie does not come through this fight victorious after his rounds with Lucas Roehrig, then Lucas is definitely ready to step in and avenge his loss, smash up Tommy, and they could do it in a real boxing match if Tommy wants to do that sort of stuff. Because I think Tommy's ranked in the cruiserweight, British cruiserweights at least. So Lucas might be 1 or 2 above him now, but Lucas don't need to go down that influencer route of chasing those sort of fights. But if it's there for you on a table, we can't help but say yes, please.
I was going to say, because I spoke to Lucas and he said the same thing. Look, I'll get the revenge if he doesn't win. Tommy's always said, look, I'm not just an influencer boxer. I want to win titles and things like that. Do you feel like a Fury Roehrig fight could actually happen for a British title at some point?
I'd love to. I don't believe it that Tommy really wants a real fight, and if he did, it certainly wouldn't be against someone like Lucas, he's just too dangerous, and his profile's just not there. And I don't blame Tommy for where he's at. He's in a very difficult situation where he's going to be paid vastly more for an influencer type fight than he'd ever be in a real fight. So why else do that? But he's from a boxing family. At some point, he probably wants to say, "Yeah, I was a good pro." So there might be, 1 or 2 fighters that he's willing to get in with, and if Lucas is one of them, I think Lucas has got that lottery ticket, because all of a sudden the risk reward is so much in his favour, because he's a much better boxer than Tommy, and it will be a massive fight. So yeah, but as I say, if it happens, it happens. If it don't, it's no harm, no foul.
Do you think we'll see Lucas call for these names like you did in your career? You kind of screamed and shouted and got the names you wanted. Do you think Lucas will do that as his career progresses?
I think he can do and will do, and maybe it sometimes should do. I don't think he needs to do that quite yet, and yeah, I never really. I was always ready to give it a bit back, but I never actually really called out too many people. There was a time once when I was calling out Paul Smith, believe it or not. Someone help Mike, look. Is he stuck? I remember calling out Paul Smith. This is pre I think I just won the Commonwealth title and I wanted to get to the British title before James DeGale did. So I called him out, called out a bunch of other British names, really cheesy sort of staged video, and I think the only person I wound up was Liam Smith, the brother, but a bit cringe now. But other than that, when you're in, like, the Frotch fight was just made. Do you know what I mean? I didn't need to put my name out there too much to get it done. The DeGale fight was just made. We were just on a collision course. So, but if that happens for Lucas, it's great. It makes the boxing fun, and you can't. It'll serve him well, because there's a lot of Brits, in and amongst it coming through right now, and there's some good amateurs who are maybe a year or 2 behind Lucas who'll be on their way through as well.
Lastly, I appreciate you've spoken about this on your YouTube channel, George Groves Boxing Club. Did want to ask you about Usyk Verhoeven, and I know everyone said sort of the stoppage was early. My question is, what did you make of Peter Fury speaking to the referee, and the referee said to him, "I didn't hear the bell." You've been on the back end of controversial stoppages. Did you feel for Rico?
Yeah, you got to feel for Rico. Do you know, like, him on my channel, my immediate reaction, like, if it sounds like I'm bashing him, because I'm like that he's not good. He's like, let's not pretend that this guy is the guy who had the kryptonite to get past Usyk. Usyk was poor, he was unfit, he looked heavy, he looked fleshy, just weren't on it, right? But let's not get away from the fact that Rico was robbed that night. The fight shouldn't have been stopped at that point. The referee didn't hear the bell, so he says, that don't surprise me. It looked like someone who hadn't heard the bell, but he should have also been aware that the end of the round's coming. It's the 11th round. he didn't need protecting at that point. He was buzzed, he was hurt, he'd been dropped, he got up, he was getting caught, but he didn't need to be saved at that point. And the bell was probably going to go, and he's got to come out and survive the last round. And he might have, because Usyk would have expelled an awful lot of energy in that 11th round. You imagine like what it feels like when you're down on the cards. It's a tough fight, and you think it's over, and then it's not. That's tough, you know. And he would have, he would have threw the kitchen sink at him in the last round, but he might not have got it. But looking at the scorecards, they were disappointing for me. There was, I think, one had Usyk up, or it was level, or whatnot. It was close. No, one had Rico up, the others had it draw. So Rico would have been losing at the end of that 10-8 round. All of it was a bit fishy, but there you go. It's boxing.
Check out his YouTube channel, George Groves Boxing Club, for the reactions to the big fights. George, appreciate your time, mate.
No, lovely. Thank you.